Hey guys, I know it's a bit late picking my team of the week for round one of the Six Nations, but I've been busy this week, so got moved closer to home work wise, which is really good. Also started a new group, an anxiety group. So a really good group of people in that, and I think it'll really help me. All things rugby now, so I want to have my rugby cap on. But I got all the reviews of each game done. So I finished the one where England annihilated Wales, and that's on 100 views. So thank you very much to everybody. The Italy and Scotland game is on 98 views. So those ones have gotten a lot of interest, and they've really peaked in the last day or so. They've almost doubled in views. So I want to do my team of the week anyway, and the reason it's coming out so late is because I've been busy, but also because I've had to rethink it and reshuffle a few players. You know, who's getting in, who's staying in, who's coming out. Um, is there any Irish people that I can put in? I've managed to get in someone from every nation, just about. Ireland and Scotland certainly didn't make it easy, but I've done it. So obviously, the players who've won, I feel like, should get first dibs. And there's a few honourable admission or omissions, I should say, from the team, which I'll go through at the end. And they just missed out. You know, there are a few very good players. There's a few players who are excellent who weren't necessarily needed. You know, sometimes a different skill set's required for a different game, and some players just undeniably could not leave out of the side. So I've done it in a PowerPoint presentation style. Hopefully, my editing skills will get better, and as we go on, it'll be a lot easier. But it saves me. I have my whiteboard here, my wonderful trusty whiteboard. Don't need to use that now. I've come up with a better system. So I'm going to share my screen with you anyway, and I'm going to go through it. So what I've done is it's in order from the pack. So my top eight players from the pack, my top seven backline, and then my top eight substitutes. So a 23 man squad. Haven't got enough fingers to do that. Two. So I'm going to share my screen with you now and go through the team. So this is the team of the week, in my opinion. Sharing it now. And feel free, guys, to let me know what you would leave in and who you would leave in, who you take out. And to be born if we all have the same opinion of rugby, as Tim from Egg Chasers always says, channel that I love, by the way. So big fan of his work. And without further ado, I'll get into it. And sorry, just getting my screen's in my way here, so I'm just going to move it up. And there we go. So I'm also in the way of poor Nicolo Canone. As you can see, Italians feature heavily. So at number one, loose head prop, we have Danilo Fischetti. Was trying to put in a picture that just shows how muscular he is because he's a big guy, you know, he's well built, as is this man next to him. They're all very good, but I feel like the strength for Italy was their front row. And their front five in particular. So their front five, their two second rows, and their three front rowers. So early on in the game, what I really took note of was how good Italy's defence was. Low, hard, chop tackles, led by the front three in particular. They were incredible. Great work rate from them. And I know it was harsh. You know, the highlights video of the Six Nations didn't do this man here. Giacomo Nicotera didn't do him justice because they showed him missing a tackle. But that wasn't the story of the match because he made a lot of tackles. Italy made a lot of tackles, as did this man over here. I don't know if my arrows. Yeah, there's my arrow. It's back. Nicolo Canone. I'll get to him in a second, so I want to stay in order. But Fischetti, big, physical, got the better of Xander Fagerson, which is not easy. You know, Xander Fagerson, I still have my board here. If you can read my writing, Fagerson was my tight head prop to start for the Lions. You know, just the most consistent tight head in the Northern Hemisphere, I feel. And he was very unfortunate to miss out due to injury, but this man got the better of him all day. Danilo Fischetti is just a beast. You know, he's a physical specimen. And I was very impressed by him. Just going to let Alfie in now. Sorry. One moment. it just felt like Fischetti was a beast around the park the whole game. You know, he's big, he's strong, he looks muscular, and he's an impressive physique. You know, the modern Moosehead. And he came back on and finished the game. I saw number one on the pitch, and I was there thinking, "Is Fischetti still on?" So great engine on him as well. It's 23 man because, again, to quote Tim from Egg Chasers, just one of my favourite rugby content providers, like broadband providers. But Tim does a lot of really good videos, and I'm sure there's some he'll agree with me, some he won't. But as he always says, be born if we were all the same. So I think while it's good to have a bit of variability, few will argue with me that these men deserve to be in the front three. So we get on to Nicotera, Giacomo, Nicotera, good Italian names. There's my arrow again. The line-out functioned brilliantly. And while that was in part down to this man and another man who just missed out the squad due to brilliant players. That is Andrea Zambonini. I keep on wanting to go Zambonini. It feels like a habit, where you go Eni, throw the Eni Meeny into the Italian team. There's always a vowel at the end of the name, but not Zambonin. And I'm sorry, I call him Alessandro. Alessandro's just such a nice name. So, but anyway, the lineup has to function with the hooker throw. So the throw and then the jump. I've jumped and I've lifted, but I've never thrown in the lineup, and it's a lot harder than it looks. Even when I'm coaching rugby, sometimes I go as hooker and I'll throw the ball in for the lads. And your timing has to be perfect. And obviously nowadays you can have a crooked throw if the opposition don't go up and compete. They don't throw a pod in the air, which I think is a good rule. I was talking about that. I think it's a good rule because it forces you to contest, and I would always encourage any team I coach to contest every ball. Nicotera was physical. Him and Fischetti, I think, they led the way. Physicality was a big thing. Physicality, and they really led the way with the charge. As did getting ahead of myself. I'm so excited. I'm just really excited to make this video. I've been looking forward to it all week, and I wanted to get to it before the weekend, so the games were on after I made this video, and hopefully, fingers crossed, you guys will check it out. But I feel like the main difference and the reason they won the scrum, like it's a front three effort, but Simone Ferrari, vroom vroom. He certainly is. He's built like a Ferrari, got a great engine on him, and he absolutely destroyed Pierre Schoeman on Scotland's loosehead side. And Schoeman's no slouch. Ewan Ashman's a big hooker as well. He's a big man. The front three for Scotland are no slouches. Maybe in the engine room behind them, there's not an awful lot coming through because they're quite slight. For second rows, Scott Cummins is quite lean, Grant Gilchrist. Scotland were just very poor, and Italy, to their credit, they dug in. They won scrums when they had to. And I think it's actually, and I want to just touch on the Ireland squad for a second because I'm going to make a separate video on that, but I feel like it's quite disrespectful to Italy to drop a player like Michael Milne, who was very good, and bring in a player like Tom O'Toole, who's not an out and out loosehead prop. At tight head, he's okay. I think personally he's better in the loose play. He's not the best scrummager, and he's certainly not proven at loosehead. So, look, Andy Farrell's the man who gets paid the big bucks to make these big decisions, but I think he's underestimating the power that these guys are going to bring, and we're only playing them tomorrow. I do not think you can underestimate how good Italy are going to be. They played for large periods of the game against Scotland without the ball. 71% territory for Scotland in the first half, and that just kept on going. Italy proved that they have the cojones and the grit to match anyone. And I'm going to move myself over because this man epitomises that, and epitomizes. I'm getting so excited that I need to take a sip of water and think before I speak. Sorry, guys. My brother says he looks like Jake Paul. I think that's a pretty good description. Nicolo Canone. I'm a big fan of his brother Lorenzo Canone, who's a very good ball carrier, very physical. But I was watching 2 Cents Rugby, another very good channel. And I'll always give a shout out to channels that I like. And that's where I found it out. So credit to him. Nicolo Canone made 26 tackles in that game. Anyone who makes 26 tackles in a game is getting in my team of the week. I used to pride myself on how many tackles I made. I was a back rower in the second row, so tackles were a thing I had to do a lot of. Most I ever made in a game was 28, and I got 3 jackal turnovers, and I got man of the match. But I was always trying to get more and more. No chance of me doing that now. Now I'm a crash ball player, playing number 8 or second row, but I'm not making that many tackles. Certainly not. Um, Andrea Zambonin was excellent in the lineup, but so was this man. And it's not always the guy who's jumping that necessarily deserves all the credit. Like as he said, this man's thrown the ball into him. Zambonin was excellent, but for me, Nicolo Canone was better. And 26 tackles, and the tackle at the end to hold up Williamson. So Italy win the game because he held them up, and it was only 3 points in it. Canone was outstanding. And in the game that required a lot of defending, a wet, miserable game, you needed men like this, and the the whole tight five of Italy could have gotten in, but yeah, that's what we're going to get to now. As miserable as the French match was for Ireland and Ireland fans, Michael Guillard, what a player! He was outstanding. I mean, he only played 50 minutes, but he deserved man of the match. In the first half, they showed his stats, and he had 41 run meters. He burst through Ty Byrne and John McCarthy, both of our second rows, which really laid down a mark. He made 7 tackles. That's right, 7. And the same amount that Sam Prendergast missed. Though to his credit, in fairness to Prendergast, he did have to make 20. He made 13, missed 7. But France sent a lot of traffic down his channel, and I've no doubt Italy will do the same. Although they're missing Ignacio Brex, who was a very good player, not Joe Brex. And he just narrowly misses out on my team. But Michael Guillard, let's stick with the forwards. I think it's Guillard. Any French fans, let me know. I'm basing it off Equipe and Key. The word key means witch in French, so QUI. Qui du travail par les problèmes Strome. But yeah, Michael Guillard is a player that's really impressed me. He's got one hell of an engine. He's a brilliant young talent. Plays for Lyon, I believe. Lyon, Olympique Lyonnais. And he really epitomises everything good about French rugby. And he linked up very well with this man, Charles Olivon, who I've put in the team at flanker, purely because that's where he normally plays. But he slotted into 4, Lou said second row perfectly. He was excellent. And the reason he makes the team over other players is because of those support lines that he runs. He does all the stuff that you need from a player in his position and more. He could have gotten a try earlier on, but Prendergast actually did very well to track back, when Louis Bielbarré kicked the ball through. Bielbarré is a very quick man, as we all know, but this man was tracking him all the way, and him and Guillard linked up perfectly for that try. So it's a French back row, and then number 8, we'll get to him in a sec. The man who England fans love, and celebrating the little thumbs up, friend. So yeah, it's dominated by Italians and French, and then topping it off is this man Francois Crowe, who he's always there. He's always in the right place. He's always making tackles. He gave a lovely little pass. I remember I was doing the highlights reel. Oscar Jegu gave the ball to Francois Crowe, and the Ireland defence, I think Ringrose was up on him, like in his face. But the hands, like, we forget how good he is around the pitch. And after Matthew Jolibert's kick over the top, and where he kind of swiped at it to bring it backwards, who was the first man on the ball? Francois Crowe. And then Jean Baptiste Crowe picked up the ball, gave a brilliant pass right in front of Michael Guillard. Now he misses out Jean Baptiste Crowe because because I feel like while he's really good in the loose, he was quite poor in the scrums at times. His left elbow kept hitting the ground. But that try was made by forwards. Jalibert did the initial chip, but Jean Baptiste Crowe gets the ball after Francois Crowe picked it up And if he isn't aware, because that was actually quite a loose ball by Jalibert, he just kind of swiped at it, and France were patting it back, and their players were getting on the ball because they were all much more aware and anticipating what was going to happen way better than Ireland did, and that's why they won in the end. And then I think that's a really nice moment. These three players linked up for Charles Olivon, who deserved this try. And that's the difference there. France anticipated, Ireland didn't. This man, monumental shift, 26 tackles, I'll say it again. Brilliant, absolutely outstanding. And he was good in the line out, the set piece. You don't win a scrum without the second rowers, I can vouch for that. So it's always nice to have a player with such a good engine on him. But then these guys, Ferrari is a beast. He's a powerful man. Jeremy Lockman will be up against it, and I actually think that Ferrari is a tougher. I think he's a tougher test than Darian Aldegheri. Maybe not Reggie Montagny, but this man is definitely going to challenge us in the scrum. They've a big pack. This is a muscular, physical Italian pack, and we're going to need to be on our A game to beat them. So could have been the front five was entirely, or the type five were entirely Italian, but I have to put some French lads in there. I actually don't think their front three were that good. Like Julien Marchand, by his incredible standards, was very good. But Michael Guillard, Charles Olivon, those support lines are brilliant. And Francois Crowe, he just does everything that you need in a player. He puts in huge tackles, gets turnovers, but he also has the subtle hands, and that's what's more impressive, that he has those skills to his game. He's not just a bash people, that type of player. Anthony Jalonche, very good as well. The entire French back row could have gotten in, but Ben Earl, probably the best attacking number eight, or probably the best attacking back rower there is so far in the Six Nations. I know it's a big statement, but I think when he gets the ball in hand, he's absolutely devastating. If you look at where he actually gets tackled by Ellis May for his try, Ellis May stops him quite far out, but he just has the leg drive to keep going and power him through. And when the thing with England that I really liked was when one player vacated their spot, someone filled in effortlessly. Like if Tom Roebuck came in off the right wing, which he did quite a lot in that game, and always added an extra man in midfield to create the space, or the dummy runner for Henry Arundel's try. Tries, plural. He got his hat trick in the first half. So you can probably tell he's going to be in my team. But let's talk about Ben Earl for a second. Just really dynamic, really physical, very fast, really good at jackal turnovers. Not that he had to do much of that against Wales. One area I would say that he struggles in, he slips off quite a lot of tackles, and in the stats last year, I was surprised to see him as one of the top tackles missed. And then I watched him against Wales. He does slip off quite a lot of tackles. So I think number eight's probably the best position for him, because you expect your flankers to make lots of tackles. Your number eight's kind of what you want from a number eight is ball carrying. That's the fundamental skill. And physically, like in one-up collisions, like bang, when someone runs straight at him, he doesn't lose those, but he gets stepped quite easily, which I'm surprised at. But in terms of carrying physicality, he certainly brings that abundance. And his positional awareness was excellent for that try. So he's got to make the team. He's definitely the best number eight at the weekend, no doubt about it. I can't think of anybody else really. Ben Earl deserves to be in there. So we get to the back line. And as you can imagine, there will be a few Frenchmen in there, as well as one world class player from France. Sorry, from France. There's a few world class players from France, but an Italian maestro, one we're going to have to watch like a hawk. I'm going to move myself over here. I think is that enough? Yeah, right in the corner. Enough from you, Dan. Does this man really need any introduction? I've had debates with people all week saying that he's world class. Take another sip because I'm losing my voice already. I'm probably getting a bit too argumentative for my own good, but Antoine Dupont, what a player. Like, do you need to be told he's world class? A lot of Southern Hemisphere people are saying, that there's people that are way better than him. He's overhyped, overrated. Let's just take a moment for Antoine Dupont. He makes my team of the week, and he didn't even have his best game against Ireland, one of the top teams in the competition. Like, this man is a superstar, Like if you watch clips of him, and I've been saying it, like I've literally been harping on to people all week, probably getting a bit too defensive of a player that doesn't even represent my country. Like, why do I say he's the best player in the world? Because there are other players, and you can argue, yes, they've won World Cups, but I think this is a good chance to have a word on this man. Like, how do I defend him? I need to get my arrow up. This man right here. Tried to fit him in as much as I could. Ever since he burst onto the scene at 17 for Castres, he was very impressive. His speed, his ability to carry with that low centre of gravity. Like he's not a very big man, but he certainly has the physicality to match anyone. I saw him playing when he was only 20 years old against New Zealand for France, and he dragged Aaron Smith back and ragdolled him. That's the opposite number nine, and admittedly a very good one, a world class number nine. And Dupont made him look weak. He dragged him back like he was a ragdoll, and then he stepped him and powered past him. His ability to step, his ability to give long passes and float them right into space, to scan the space. He takes a step and he scans, he draws in defenders, and he always gives the right pass. He'll throw it back inside, he'll throw it outside, he always picks the right option. He can box kick off either foot, he can crossfield kick off either foot, he can slot into 10 effortlessly. And I've seen him do it. People are saying Antoine Dupont's a world class 10. You're having a laugh. And then people start comparing him to Dan Carter, and I'm like, he's a world class scrum half. Dan Carter's a world class fly half. So people are comparing them, and they're two completely different positions. I'm not sure how well Dan Carter would have gotten on at scrum half, and Dan Carter was obviously a world class player. I'm not denying that, but he was wrapped in cotton wool. Andrew Hoare, the famous all black hooker, even joked before when it was a game between the Highlanders. It was either the Highlanders and it was definitely the Crusaders because that was Dan Carter's team, the Canterbury Crusaders. But did Andrew Hoare did he play for the Hurricanes from Wellington or the Highlanders from Dunedin? I'm trying to think now. I think it was the Highlanders from Dunedin. I actually worked with a girl from Dunedin. Looks like a lovely part of the world. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. He joked and he asked, "Are we allowed to tackle Dan Carter?" And I know the French media went a little over the top when Ty Byrne and Andrew Porter cleaned out Antoine Dupont, but the man himself showed what a class act he is. And I know there's the whole thing with the salary cap with him and Anthony George, but at the end of the day, if you're offered money, you're going to take it, and ask yourself, if you had this man in your team, how much would you pay to keep him? I know I try and keep in your keep. If you're French, I'm sure you like that one. Keep in dans your keep. But he's just so good, and that's why people were so outraged in France, because he's a really good player. And I'm not being disrespectful to any other scrum halves, but how many of them? Am I right in saying in France, demi de mêlée scrum half? Please let me know. I'd love to know. It's like the half of the scrum. I know melee is scrum. Demi de mêlée has a much nicer ring to it, doesn't it? French just has a much nicer ring in general than other languages, except for Irish, of course. But they were so outraged that he got injured way more than they would have been probably if it was Maxime Luku or I won't say Nolan Le Garrett because that fella looks like he's going to be as good as Dupont and he can kick from the tee really well. Like he got home from the touchline. It was very impressive. Baptiste Saran, I don't know anyone else, and that's probably not as much of an outrage. It's because of what a player he is. The French people probably it was pretty disgusting what they were saying now, but it's because Dupont is that good a player. They know if they lose him, they're half the team without him. I've watched highlights of him on Rugbyverse saying that Dupont is an elite kicker, which he is. And not just a kicker from scrum half, like he can get 50-22s, but he can also take the ball into his hands and kick off either foot crossfield and float it perfectly for the wingers to score. Or whoever happens to be on the wing, because Charles Olivon can find himself out there. He wrestled Mac Hansen from his own try line back over it. He's obviously got the physical strength to do it. He played against South Africa after suffering he suffered a fractured cheekbone against Namibia, and it looked like he was going to miss the game. But they were so desperate to get him on the pitch, even with the fractured cheekbone. He wore a scrum cap, and he played. And then he ended up playing all right. And France only lose by 1 point, you know. And let's not forget as well when Ireland humiliated France in Marseille. That was, I mean, it was because France didn't show up, but it's also because they didn't have Antoine Dupont. They're not the same team without him. He's that good and he's that important to the French side. They have to have him. If they don't have him, they're not anywhere near as good as they could be. And in fairness to Maxime Lucu, when Dupont got injured in the last Six Nations, he stepped up big time and had a very good game. But I think even he'll admit that Dupont is next level. Let's not forget as well that he took a year out and he wasn't playing in that game in Marseille or for the whole Six Nations that year because he was training with the French sevens team. They were getting ready for the Olympic Games. He's only just taken it up and he ends up as a gold medalist at the end. France won gold at the Olympics, and it was in large part due to this man. Like, I know he hasn't won a World Cup, that's fair enough, I accept that argument. And does that give other players a bit more of an edge? Yeah, definitely. But if he wins a World Cup, then that's the debate settled for me. You know, he's just such a good player, good human being by the sounds of it as well. And he didn't even play his best game against Ireland, and he still had big parts in all their tries. So he jackals like a back rower as well. If anyone doesn't believe me, watch Toulouse against Leinster. Not in the Champions Cup final just gone, but the one before that, back in the 2023-24 season. Dupont got two 50-22s and he made about 3 jackal turnovers in a game that went to extra time. So he's obviously important for the French team. And any team that he's in, he'll enhance them, no doubt about it. And then next to him, because enough long smoke up Dupont's arse, he probably doesn't need it. But Matthew Jalibert, what a game he had. He won me money. He was very good. Best out half of the weekend. And I mean, George Ford probably can feel hard done by to miss out. But while Jalibert didn't kick from the tee, everything he did was positive. I showed the highlights when he threw the ball in quick at the line out. His chip over the top after that, his try, his physicality as well, his ability to tackle, his ability to get the ball and offload while being tackled by 2 men. He has the physicality that Sam Prendergast is missing. He made 12 tackles, I think, and he only missed 1. So he stepped up when he had to make tackles. He fucking made them, and he made them stick. Great distributor of the ball, very good attacker. And he'll be saying to this man down below, Fabien Galtier, start me. I deserve to start now. I've earned my place. Because I know he was blamed when France lost to England at Twickenham last year and sent home. So he has a point to prove. Roman Ntamak is out now injured, so it's time for him to really step up. And personally, I think he's a better player than Ntamak, but that's just my opinion. Everyone's entitled to theirs, except saying that Dupont's not the best player in the world, except for that. So then getting to 12, first centre. Could someone from the Southern Hemisphere please explain to me what first 5-8 is? Does it mean 12? Because you guys call 13 centre, and I think first 5-8 is 12. But anyway, I say first centre and second centre. Tommaso Menoncello, a man who we're going to have to watch heavily because he's going to be coming down Sam Prendergast's channel all day long. Why wouldn't you? It's such an obvious weakness. The people are saying, yes, he missed 7 tackles, but he made 13. But you have to ask yourself why people are sending so much traffic down his channel. It's because he's a liability. And when Lenny Nucci, the fella who would have played against him, who was the captain for France in the under-20 championship, he must be getting nightmares over him because he was running alongside him, kind of clawing at him. in the under-20 championship, and in this game when France played Ireland, exactly, yeah, a week ago, last Thursday. Just trying to remember my dates. The 5th of February. Prendergast actually stopped Nucci, and then Nucci powered through from the zone 20, from Prendergast 22 all the way into the 5 metre line. It was the post contact meters that worried me. So even if Prendergast is making the tackle, players are still getting yards on him, you know what I mean? And a good example of that is Len Ikitau's try against Ireland for Australia in the autumn series just gone. Prendergast makes the tackle, but he concedes so many yards. I'm in a spinny chair now. That's probably the best way to analyse his tackling style because he always goes like a turnstile, as he did for Matthew Jalibert's try when he made no tackle. It was just a floppy arm. Let's see if I can recreate it. It was just like that, floppy arm. You're never going to tackle him like that. Tommy O'Brien as well was quite poor in that game, and he's been dropped as a result. Good player, but did not cover himself in glory. Menoncello is an absolute beast, and he was involved in everything good that Italy did. He made a brilliant carry for their first try. Just a simple switch back inside, and Menoncello powered onto that ball. Now he's playing at 13 against Ireland, not 12, so he won't be getting it off first receiver. But I'm sure they'll find a way to get him into the game. And if I was Gonzalo Casada, I would be sending as much traffic down Sam Prendergast's channel as I possibly could. As everyone was saying, including 2 Cents Rugby. Every time France got a line out, they sent Yoram Moefana down that channel. And he's very unlucky to miss out, as is Fraser Dingwall, 2 really good centres, both at 12. But one thing that I really liked about Dingwall was his distribution. He was like a second playmaker. So George Ford gets all the credit normally, but Dingwall was like a facilitator for Tommy Freeman, who also just misses out. The reason being is that the quality of opposition was much poorer for England than for Italy and France. And I know Ireland didn't have their best game, but it's a tougher opponent for anyone than playing against Wales at the moment. And it's not good for rugby to have Wales not playing well. I said that I included a player from every nation. I forgot about Wales. That's the thing, and then no disrespect, but that's the way Welsh rugby is at the minute. It's quite forgettable, and I'm sure the fans want to forget this time in history because there's nothing positive you can really take from it. Their discipline was shocking. They mounted off the ref. They got on the wrong side of Pierre Brousset. Instantly, Dowie Lake did not cover himself in glory. Alex Mann, he was riding up the England team, and admittedly, Ellis Genge is very lucky not to have gotten at least a yellow for his headbutt on him. But yeah, Welsh rugby is just not in a good place. Dan Edwards, look, he could be a very good player, but Louis Rees-Zammit had moments, but his attitude to scream when the pass wasn't perfect to him instead of actually playing on, that cost him a few yards. And he's a quick guy, so any yard for him is much more valuable than other players. But the attitude was just not there. Whereas with Menoncello, he was a beast. He led the line. He's only a young man, but he led the line brilliantly. That carry off the line out from Italy where Paolo Garbisi threw it back inside. He just crashed onto it, made great yards. And Alessandro Fusco was very good as well, and who was also unlucky to miss out. Gave a really good pass down the channel again and then switched it back down the short side. And Juan Ignacio Brex, who misses out this week due to family reasons, all the best to him. Also unlucky to miss out. But then Menoncello also got a try. Brilliant try in the corner, brilliant floating pass over the top. And he finished perfectly. Ball in the wrong arm, but, when you're as good as he is, you can put it in whatever arm you want. There was also a loose pass or a loose kick. And this is when the rain was pouring and the hands by Menoncello to scoop the ball off the ground and to just steamroll onto it. I think Scotland got a lucky turnover in the end, but everything good about attacking and defensive rugby, Menoncello was the reason. He's just such a good athlete and a really good advertisement of the game in Italy. Like I talked about their type 5 being brilliant, but this man in the back line, he's everything good about the back line. Louis Lina had quite a good game as well, in fairness to him. really good catch for the Menoncello try. Box kick, brilliant take in the air, and also unlucky to miss out. Probably a decision that people are surprised by is that I've included Nicolas Deporter at 13, so at second centre instead of the likes of Tommy Freeman or Nacho Breaks. But the reason I've done that is because this man is only 23 and he made 31-year-old world class centre and Lions centre Gary Ringrose look foolish. He got the better of Gary Ringrose, and how many people can say that? And he's 8 years younger than him. You know, he was powerful, he was strong, he's a really good leader. Speaking of the under 20s French side and Lenny Nucci, Nicolas Deporter was the captain. He led the line, you know, he was really good as a captain. Plays on the wing as well, but his physicality at 13, being so young, like him and Joran Malfana dominated Stuart McCluskey and Gary Ringrose. So I know it's not necessarily going to be the popular selection, but for me, this guy was the best, really good. And I know Hugh Jones was playing for Scotland, but I feel like Deporter made Gary Ringrose look foolish. And I have to give brownie points to that because I would say arguably the winning centre partnership in that game was Joran Malfana and Nicolas Deporter over Stuart McCluskey and Gary Ringrose. Not an easy task, and Deporter led it well. You know, Nacho Brex is older and more experienced and had a really good game, but I have to give it to Deporter. He was everything that was good about French rugby on Thursday just gone. He had a really good game, and if he keeps playing the way he is, he'll hold down that 13 jersey for a while because he's only 23, as they say. Smashing player, really good, and was everything good about France when they played us on Thursday. Then we get to the back three, the speedsters. This man was in my team of the week every week. I never had to rub out this board, this famous board. I still have the revised Lions squad that I would have picked. We might go over that, but every time I had a team of the week last year, 6 Nations, Louis Bielbieri featured in it every single time. 2 tries against Ireland, a constant threat on the left wing. He was absolutely superb. You know, every time he gets the ball, he only needs an inch and he'll go through the space. And even when Prendergast managed to put him down quite well, I will say, in fairness, he still manages to get straight back to his feet and goes past Stockdale like he's not even there. He was dropped as well, so unlucky for him, but yeah, you can't say he hadn't had his chance. He didn't take it. You know, Farrell's been very ruthless in some selections, and then others he's been very generous. But then another man who makes this guy look good is Tomo Ramos, who set up Labib Beep's second try by just really good effort. You know, so there was a box kick by Dupont, this man up here. Tomo Ramos just fought so hard to get his left foot on the ball. And everything bad about Irish rugby could be summed up by what France did. So Tommy O'Brien could have gotten to the ball if he tried a bit harder. Jamie Osborne was stuck in no man's land. He could have either come for the ball or stayed back. And I know the French are famous for surrendering, but this man certainly did not surrender when it came time to get the ball. He fought for every bit of it. Sorry, French people. Bringing up the war. Just a little joke. Just a joke. As well as that, like, Tomo Ramos gets almost every kick. He missed one, but he was very lucky at the post. He's usually effortless off the tee, you know, and you think about that World Cup decision when Cheslin Cole came sprinting out, also a world class player, for any South Africans thinking that I'm saying that he's not. Just think this man's better. I think he's more to the French team than Colby is to the South African team. That's just my opinion. You're entitled to yours. But Ramos is also extremely important. The thing is, as well, and I think the area that Ireland are really lacking in is multiple playmakers. So with France, they've got Dupont, they've got Jalibert, and they've got Ramos. If one of them isn't on their game, they've still got multiple players who could step up into playmaker, throw those passes, kick the ball as well. And I think the thing with France that I like the most is that they take the pressure off their fly half. So Dupont always steps into the fly half position and gives the pass. This pass. But because he's such a good playmaker and can start moves at 9, he's not just feeding the ball to whoever wants it. He's actually looking, scanning. I showed you when he sniped against Ireland because Ty Byrne had his hands in the air playing to the ref instead of focusing on the game. And Dupont spotted it instantly and went into the gap. That frees up the likes of Matthew Jalibert and Thomas Ramos to step in. And then the jobs for Nicolas Deporter, this man, Louis Bielbarré, Theo Atasogby, who also was unlucky to miss out. They just make it so much easier because they take that responsibility off one player. It's shared, it's equally distributed. In Ireland, everything goes through 10. So if the 10's not doing it, we've no answer to it. So I was thinking of Jack Crowley starting a fullback. I mean, they haven't done it. I thought maybe if you're going to put Prendergast in and you insist on playing him every week, perhaps what you should do then is to put Crowley and Prendergast to the team. Because actually, when Crowley was first receiver, giving it to Prendergast was getting it with less pressure on. The pressure was off, and he gave some really nice passes. I thought Stuart McCluskey could have had a try due to a brilliant float pass by Sam Prendergast. Jack Conan kind of fumbled it, but he fumbled it back, and Louis Bielbarré was committed to the tackle. He came right in on Jack Conan. If McCluskey had just waited and been more patient, he would have got a try, or Jamie Osborne would have scored. There's a lack of belief in Ireland about our teammates. We don't trust our teammates to do something. We don't back our teammates. France backed their teammates to do the right thing every time. And that's the difference right there. Dupont made a really good kick. Tomo Ramos made every effort just to get something. He got a left toe to the ball. And then Louis Bielbarré was waiting. He didn't think Ramos might get a toe to it, so I'll hang back. He was like, no, Ramos is getting the toe to that ball. I'm going to chase it. He did. And he scored as a result. So once again, like I said, with Francois Crowe, Michael Guillard and Charles Olivon linking up well for Olivon's try. That try was made by these guys, and Jalibert ran everything perfectly through 10. You know, he played like a man reborn. Because it hasn't been easy for him. He hasn't been able to break into the French squad easily because of, and I feel like I was worried that this clip would be made bad because of Fabien Galtier looking on. But I feel like it's a good analogy for French rugby because Jalibert is always being watched by those big glasses, those Johnny Knoxville glasses. But yeah, France were really good. And against Wales, I fear for Wales, these men in the background, because it looks like it's going to be an onslaught, you know? It's not going to be pretty. France put over 40 points on Wales last time, and Wales didn't register a single point. So, yeah, looks ominous, all right. But, yeah, two left wingers because Henry Arundel, you probably were worried he'd miss out when I said Louis Bielbarré. But you get 3 tries, you get a hat trick, you make my team. You make 26 tackles, you make my team. Take another sip because I'm getting overexcited. Arundel was excellent. There's a few talks about Shane Williams and the way he says his name. Henry Arundel. Arundel. The take well Jackson. It's interesting. It's an interesting name, certainly. But yeah, he was effortless. All his tries, he just walked it in, placed it down. He's exactly what you want in a winger. He's a try scorer. You know, he's a try scoring machine, as is Bielbarré. You know, 2 games between them, 5 tries. Like, you can't ask for more clinical than that. So that's my back line anyway. So, yes, mostly French. You can understand why only 2 Englishmen. Sorry, 2 Englishmen. Sorry, my apologies. My apologies, Tommaso. 1 Italian man and 1 Englishman make my team. Englishman, as they say. They're always wondering, is it Englishman or Englishman when they go Englishman? But the rest have to be French because France and Ireland is arguably a tougher game than England and Wales. And while the Italian Scotland game was tough, the French really showed their class. And this man off the tee, this man just fixing players to the line, making his tackles as well. 11 tackles out of 12 ain't bad for a 10 because they're famous for falling off their tackles. And then, of course, Labib Beep makes the team every week because he's that good. Labib Beep makes the team every week. He just can't seem to stop scoring. This man as well, Arundel, has 12 tries in 9 matches, which is very impressive. He's a try scoring machine. The beating heart of the Italian team is Tommaso Menoncello. And this man here is a general in midfield, only 23 and he made Gary Ringrose look like dirt. So he has to make my team. So that's my starting 15 anyway. So just to go through it again, we have Danilo Fischetti at 1, Lucid prop, Giacomo Nicotera at 2, hooker, Simone Ferrari at 3, tight head prop. At number 4, so the Lucid second row, Nicolo Canoni with 26 tackles, very impressive. Very, very impressive. Then at 5, Michael Guillard, who was outstanding, carried, tackled, everything good about French rugby. He even had a try assist with his opposite second rower, who also makes my team, Charles Olivon, who I put in the back row just to make space for him because he was that good. Brilliant carrying, brilliant running, great support lines, excellent at the line out all day, so he had to make the team. Francois Crowe, who was an absolute workhorse, does all the unseen work, but also has the subtle skills and the handling to match anyone. He always goes under the radar and doesn't make the team nearly as much as he should because it's just expected of him. He's one of those players that you notice when he's not in the team. And that's what they say about a good back rower. They do all the unsung work. But I want to give him a special mention because he's that good. And then Ben Earl at number 8 has to be. He was just so good, ball carrying, got a try for himself. He's always a danger and he's very physical. So he makes my team as well. And then we have the backs Antoine, Matthew, Tommaso. We have Nicolas, Louis Bielberry, Tomo Ramos, Henry Arundel. Yeah, so it's just like it's mostly French, Italian, and English because they won, and they were the best teams. So Matthew Jalibert, Antoine Dupont, a great 9 and 10 combo. Tommaso Menoncello, a superstar in arguably a weak team, but they're coming on. Italy are on the right trajectory. Nicola Deporter is only 23, but he's a leader. Louis Bielbieri and Henry Arundel are just finishers without an out pace. Tomo Ramos never looks worried. Never looks worried off the tee. He's always so flawless off the tee. But he also adds more as a second receiver and he can play fly half as well as fullback. So he's just such a good player, and everything good about French rugby this man has right there. And Jalibert is the French flair that we need. These two are a lethal combo, and I would argue that why Dupont is such a good player is because he takes the pressure off Jalibert. Maxime Lucu is a very good player as well, but I feel like with Dupont playing in the team, people have said before that Jalibert and Dupont want to be the main man, the main attacker, the main playmaker. I think they complement each other perfectly because they take the pressure off one another. It's not just one or the other, they all equally distributed. And then you have Ramos. Having Dupont is like playing with a fly half and a scrum half already. Add that to the fact that then you have Jalibert and Ramos. French are going to be tough to beat, guys. And then this man being an out and out finisher, and this man, they had to make the team. My bench. So, more English lads and Irish lads do make an appearance at one Scott. Going to move myself out of the way of poor Andrea Zambonin, whose name I got wrong. Pardon me. Andrea, not Alessandro. But we get to the bench anyway. Jamie George, and it wasn't really a great week for the hookers. I feel like not many hookers were great, and we had the likes of Julian Marchand, Piotr Movaca, Dan Sheehan, Roman Kelleher playing, Dewi Lake as well, Ewan Ashman, all good hookers, but just weren't very impressive. I won't lie. But Jamie George, I think, deserves praise for what he does as a captain as well as a hooker. He's just so level headed. I really like him. I haven't, had him here in my Lions team. He's just really level headed. And the reason why I don't like it, Maro Itoje or Ellis Genge as the captain, is just because of their kind of arrogance, their hot headedness. They're always onto the ref as well. Whereas you can hear Jamie George when Ellis Genge did get penalised for headbutting Alex Mann. Very calm, very mannerly, very much, sorry, is that being disallowed because of the headbutt? The referee said yes. And he's like, okay, no problem. And also when he asked to have a word with his team, and Louis Rees Sammet came over barking at the ref. He was probably right to do it because it was a fair question. But that's exactly why Jamie George, in my opinion, is a great captain. Level headed, so that when he did ask Pierre Brousset, can I have a word with my players? When Wales were camped on the England try line, almost, the referee was like, yes, no problem. Whereas with Dewi Lake had been pissing him off, he'd been annoyed and we'd been talking too much. So he was like, didn't give him the opportunity, gave two yellow cards in a row because Wales were just so poorly disciplined and unfortunate. Like, it's not often I say it, but there's no Welshman in the team of the week. I thought it featured every nation. Did well to get anyone from Scotland and Ireland in, to be fair, as well, because there wasn't an awful lot of good talking points. But great leadership from Jamie George, very good captain. Seems like a good guy as well. One good talking point, a few of them from Ireland, but Michael Milne, he misses out on the Ireland squad this weekend against Italy, and I don't know how. I don't know what he's done wrong, to be honest with you. Jeremy Loughman was quite good as well. Michael Milne came on at 60 minutes, so the hour mark. And one thing I really want to show you, I'm not going to show you now, but I'm just going to talk about it. Reggie Montagne and Emmanuel Miafu came on, and that's 277 kilos of beef coming off the bench. And you could see the difference. Jeremy Loughman had put in a huge shift at Loosehead. And as soon as those guys came on, they just folded Ireland. So that shows you the power coming through. Like, because Jeremy Loughman was able to manage Dorian Aldegheri and then Michael Guillard in the second row. But then Miafu and Reggie Montagne just powered through. And I know fatigue sets in. As soon as Michael Milne came on, it showed up, it stopped budget. He was solid in the scrum against a man that's 132 kilos and then a man who's 145 behind him. And he got a try. He did all the fundamentals. The line out worked pretty smoothly. But yet he's dropped. And Tom O'Toole, a man who doesn't play at Loosehead week in, week out for Ulster, is picked ahead of him against a very powerful Italian pack. I think it's quite disrespectful to Italy, and I think it's very worrying. Was Farrell watching the game where Italy absolutely folded the Scotland scrum? Because if he was, he'll know that we need a strong pack. And the lads off the bench for Italy are no slouches either. Mohamed Hassa, that's his name. Big guy, bulky. Now, Nathan Macbeth got the better of him for Scotland at Loosehead when he came off the bench. And I don't know much about Nathan Macbeth. I know he's South African baller, but with a name like Macbeth, you're definitely Scottish. You can't deny that. Him and Elliot Miller-Mills. The Italian bench probably isn't as good as their starters. Most teams now have a bench that is equally as strong as their starting team because it's a 23-man game. But Michael Milne certainly did no harm to his selection. He wasn't poor on the scrums. He was actually very good, very solid. He got a try as well and added a bit of oomph, added carries to the team when he came on. But Farrell's dropped him completely and brought in a man who can't play a Loosehead. And actually, when Tom O'Toole played against Fiji, I think 2 years ago now, he was quite poor. He kept losing his bind, he kept infringing or over engaging, and yeah, he doesn't play week in, week out at Loosehead. So I don't know what Farrell's thinking, but he's the man who makes the goals. But Michael Milne definitely deserves his place in my team of the week, and he's got there. He was very good. Solid in the set piece, the line out and the scrums were fine. He added in the carries and he got himself a try. He was the only who said brought the score try at the weekend. But hey ho, he misses out. Joe Hayes, son of John, different spelling. Lovely jump to catch the ball off a line out, but powerful in the scrum. Really long boy, so really strong physical player. He must be quite tall as well. He's about 6'2", 6'3", which is tall enough, because he has that really long boy and the long stance. And every time the pressure was coming through on Nicky Smith, he just couldn't hold it. The left elbow was dropping on the ground, like I was talking about with John Baptiste Crowe. Now, Joe Hayes did very well. He also was in running the dummy lines, taking hard carries as well. It's just Simone Ferrari was even better. But Joe Hayes was impressive. I'd say those two lads played very well. Best tight ends by a mile. Milne I feel for you. I don't know what he's done to fall out of favour. Like, I understand we have a prop crisis at the minute, but he needs minutes. Him and Jeremy Lockman only have 7 caps between them for Ireland before coming into the Six Nations. He needs all the game time he can get, so we can't afford to be resting players for games against Italy in the back anyway. Maybe in the back line or the back row. Like, it's good to see some players be brought in, like Cormac Isachukwu and Jack Coleman, who I'm a big fan of. Thought Nick Timoney should have probably started, to be honest. But you're not going to drop your captain, Caelan Doris. So, look, it is what it is. Getting to replacement second rows, and I've gone with a 6-2 split because I feel like more forwards deserve a mention. So Andrea Zambonin, outstanding in the line not far behind Nicolo Canone on tackles. He's a real leader in the line, a really good jumper, and I just wish I could have put him and Canone together in the team of the week, but Mikel Guiar was that good. They were very good, like they were impressive. So he has to make the team one way or another, and thankfully we fit him in. Tyke Byrne, another replacement who could play back row or as a second row, and he did play second row against France. One of our only good players, definitely our only good starting player. He got 3 jackal turnovers, made tackles, led the line out well, gave a really good pass. So once again, I'm linking players up, but him and Mill linked up brilliantly. He drew the defenders in, gave the pass out after drawing 2 players in on the line, Rodrigue Netti and Reggie Montagne. So pretty good game. Not his best by his own amazing standards, but he certainly did himself proud. And I don't think he can be accused of having a bad game. He always puts in a great shift for him. Yes, Michael Guerre ran through him and John McCarthy, but we'll allow one little missed tackle, not 7. We won a brilliant turnover after quite a poor kick by Jack Crowley in the French 22. We got over it, and it's harder to get those ones, but he did it very well. So no, definitely did himself no favours. No favours, no harm. Prendergast did himself no favours, but Tyg is a man I always want to put in my team. I was going to just comment about Hugo Keaton in the back with the hair pinned back, and we're missing him right now, a fullback, that's for sure. Player who I was thinking of putting in the starting team was this man, Nick Timoney, because he did not put a foot wrong. He stepped Louis BLBRE. I'd say he put a foot right. Stepping a player as quick as BLBRE is impressive. He came from the Sevens game. He was our top carrier. He made the most carries and the most carry meters out of any Irish player, and he only came off the bench for like 22 minutes. Very poor from Ireland, but also when we needed an injection of pace, this man gave it to us. But he's still on the bench. I don't know why. I don't think he put a foot wrong. Everything he did was positive. He added all the attack that we were missing completely. So did Mill. They added a bit of oomph that we needed. So these 3 guys are the only Irish players I can put in without feeling completely guilty, because they were the only players that offered anything for us in the entire game. Timoney finished his try like a winger and carried like a machine, and he can do the fundamentals. He got a turnover as well, 1 turnover, and he is a 7 by trade, and he played 7s by trade. Don't know how he hasn't earned the start against Italy, because once again, a lot of these players don't have international caps. It was Moon's first Six Nations game, and it was Timoney's first Six Nations game. You can't afford to be resting them. Give them minutes. We need players playing minutes. But as I say, Andy Farrell makes the big call. Our 3 best players, Tyke Byrne drops to the bench, Nick Timoney remains on the bench, and Michael Mill drops out of the team altogether. So go figure. I don't know. I'm not paid the same wage as Andy Farrell, so he makes the big calls. Anyway, we move on to the 2 replacement backs. George Horn, the only Scot to feature in the team. I talked about Ireland lacking any sort of finesse and power. Scotland were even worse. 71% territory in the first half, and they only had 1 try to show for it. That's what their amazing star-studded backline of Hughie Pilotu, Finn Russell, and Ben White. Who Ben White's actually quite a good player, in fairness, but did not fire a shot, was poor. George Horn added a lot of attacking flair and finesse power. He bit of oomph, bit of urgency. So I know it's not much, but it's not as if the scrum halves had a great weekend or week as we played during the week. Gibson Park, who's excellent, was poor. Um, yeah, Craig Casey didn't get enough time. Baptiste Saran was quite good, but I feel like George Horn was even better because France had already wrapped the game up pretty much when Baptiste Saran came on. George Horn sparked Scotland into life. Alessandro Fusco could have gotten in as well because he was quite good, but George Horn, I feel like just in a very poor Scotland team, he added a bit of oomph that was seriously lacking, and he finished brilliantly. Like I know that Alessandro Garbisi moved too fast out of the maul, but George Horn spotted the gap and finished it perfectly. So we wrap up to 23. So George Ford. Now, arguably with a very dominant pack, 4 yellow cards for Wales as well, but George Ford only missed 2 kicks and they were both down on the touchline and one hit the post. His kicking out of hand, his ability to put players into space to hit Fraser Dingwall, and Dingwall was giving lovely little pot passes for Tommy Freeman and Tom Roebuck. England backline could only get firing if this man, George Ford, was delivering, and he did. He was a really good general on the pitch, and he seized his opportunity by missing out on the Lions store and playing with England in Argentina. He really took his opportunity when it came, and now he's leading the way. He didn't sit there feeling sorry for himself. Wouldn't be my favourite 10 in England. Finn Smith is quite good. Marcus Smith adds a bit of speed and dynamism. But George Ford does everything you need in a 10, and he made all 6 of his tackles. So, you want to talk about defence when he needed to, he did it all perfectly. So he's in my 23. So I'll just go over it again with you because he kicked his points, did all the fundamentals. Just felt like Jalibert was even better, and he got a try. But we'll go through the team again. So that's my subs. George Ford, George Horn, the 2 Georges. I didn't even realise that. My halfbacks are the 2 Georges. Nick Timoney, Ty Byrne as my replacement flankers or second row for Ty Byrne. The only good thing to come out of Ireland was Nick Timoney and then Michael Milne, Ty Byrne starting. Andrea Zamboni, who led the line really well and was the best jumper for Italy by a mile. Him and Nicolo Canone were outstanding at second row. And then we get to Joe Hayes and Jamie George. George being a great leader, really good front row performance by England. Ellis Genge, though, very lucky to avoid getting the card. Michael Milne, Nick Timoney off the bench were the bright sparks for Ireland. I don't know why Michael Milne has been dropped, but I don't make the big decisions, so Andy Farrell does. So yeah, that's the end of it anyway. Just to go through the starting team again. So I like this format. Might do this again, guys. This is our starting pack. So all Italian front 3, deservedly so. Brilliant. And they're going to test us tomorrow. Danilo Fischetti, Giacomo Nicotera, Simone Ferrari, then the brilliant Nicolo Canone with 26 tackles at second row. Michael Guillard, it was just outstanding for France. Try assist as well. That's really good carrying and tackles. Francois Crowe, the workhorse in the French team. Charles Olivon with the brilliant support lines and a try, led the line out brilliantly as well. Ben Earl is just an attacking threat all over the pitch, even on the wing. Needs to maybe work on his tackling a little bit, but in terms of ball carrying, he's definitely got every attribute you need to be a number 8. And he brings such an energy to him, celebrating knock-ons like they're tries. You either love it or you hate it. Then star-studded backline, Antoine Dupont and Mathieu Jalibert both led the line brilliantly. 2 brilliant playmakers. Tommaso Menoncello, who was the Italian poster boy for rugby, he doesn't need any introduction, has the physicality, the speed, every attribute, the handling as well of a centre. He's just a good all-rounder, and we're going to need to be on our A game to beat Italy at the weekend, just tomorrow. Nicola Deporter, who made world-class Irish 13. Gary Ringrose look average, who's 8 years his senior as well. That's right, 8 years older. And Deporter had a much more polished performance, so that's why he makes my 23-man squad and starts at 13. Louis BLBRE, who was a try scoring machine, is always a threat. Defended when he needs to, batted back the loose kicks as well. Very effective under the high ball, even though he's only a little man. Little beep beep. As is Henry Arundel, finished outstanding. The only man to get 3 tries, a hat trick at the weekend, 12 tries in 9 games, so you can't argue with those stats. And Tomo Ramos, a fullback, takes the pressure off these two lads to just go and do their thing, knowing that this man will get almost every kick that's put in front of him. Show such grit and determination to get his left toe to the ball that Antoine Dupont kicked and set up Louis Bielbieri. Outstanding. Really good. And then just let's go through it again. My bench. That's my bench there. We've gone through that in enough detail. 2 Georges as my halfbacks. Nick Timoney, my favourite Tiggy, after Tyg Furlong, of course. Then Andrea Zambonin, without the I at the end. Joe Hayes, son of John. Big, beefy tight head prop, exactly what you want in your tight head. The man who can feel hard done by for missing out in the squad, Michael Milne. The only prop to score a try at the weekend, sorry, yeah. The only front rower, I think, to get a try. So he must be asking himself what he's done wrong. And then Jamie George, the brilliant leader at hooker. You know, just shows you how a captain should be with a ref, real mannerly, and it definitely gets him brownie points, you have to say. The way he spoke to Pierre Brousset was completely different than the opposite hooker. They were both hookers, the captains. They love barking orders, as do scrum halves. But Dewi Lake fell out of favour with Pierre Brousset, whereas Jamie George, very mannerly, very level headed, wasn't throwing his hands up in the air, high rate, just calm. Sorry, sir, what was that? Really good example of how you should speak to a ref. And it buys you brownie points. So, yeah, that is my 23, guys. Let me know what you think. Share yours. And also let me know if you think that I should have added or taken anybody out. The honourable mentions are Fraser Dingwall, Nacho Brex, Tommy Freeman. Those are the main ones. Centre was a hard one. Yoram Mofana was another one that I thought, could have gotten in, but just feel like the other lads edged it. All right. Hope you enjoyed this anyway. Come on, Aaron. We're going to need a big performance the weekend. We're going to need to up our game big time, because I think we'll all agree last Thursday was not good enough. Nowhere near good enough for an Ireland team. But the changes have come in, so let's be hopeful. All right, guys. See you in the next one. Slán go fóill.